Your Anthurium has lush, healthy green leaves, but not a single flower. You water it, you give it plenty of light, maybe you've even bought special fertilizer. Yet months go by and it still refuses to bloom. Here's the surprising part. Your Anthurium probably isn't the problem. In fact, most Anthuriums stop flowering because of a few simple mistakes that almost every plant owner makes, often without even realizing it.
Today, I'm going to show you the 5 secrets that tell your Anthurium it's finally time to bloom again. And make sure you stay until the end because the biggest mistake is also the easiest one to make, and it could be preventing your plant from flowering year after year. Why it's not flowering. Before we fix the problem, let's understand what's really happening. If your Anthurium has healthy leaves, don't panic. It isn't dying. In fact, it's doing exactly what plants are designed to do: survive. Growing leaves is relatively easy. Producing flowers is much more demanding.
Flower is a huge investment of energy, and your Anthurium won't make that investment until it believes the conditions are just right. It waits for the perfect combination of light, water, humidity, temperature, and nutrients. Once all of those signals come together, something remarkable happens. Instead of making another leaf, it starts creating flowers. So let's look at the 5 signals your Anthurium is waiting for.
Secret number 1, light. Let's start with the biggest misconception. Many people think Anthuriums love shade. Others place them in direct sunlight all day. Both mistakes can stop flowering. In the wild, Anthuriums grow beneath the canopy of tropical rainforests. They rarely receive direct sunlight. Instead, they spend their lives bathed in bright, filtered light. That's exactly what you should recreate indoors. Place your Anthurium near a bright window where it receives plenty of indirect light. If your window gets intense afternoon sun, a sheer curtain works perfectly to soften the light.
Too little light means the plant simply doesn't have enough energy to produce flowers. Too much direct sun scorches the leaves and creates unnecessary stress. But when the light is just right, your Anthurium begins producing stronger leaves, healthier roots, and before long, you'll often notice a brand new flower spike beginning to emerge. But even perfect lighting won't help if you're making the next mistake, and this one kills far more Anthuriums than lack of light ever does.
Secret number 2, watering, 2 to 3 minutes. Most people water their Anthurium the same way every week, every Sunday or every Wednesday, whether the plant needs it or not. Your Anthurium doesn't care what day it is. It only cares about the moisture around its roots. Before watering, check the top 2 inches of the growing medium. If it still feels damp, wait. If it's dry, then it's time to water thoroughly. The biggest danger isn't underwatering.
It's overwatering. Anthurium roots need oxygen just as much as they need moisture. When they remain trapped in constantly wet soil, they slowly begin to suffocate. That's when root rot develops. And once root rot starts, flowering is usually the first thing to disappear. Eventually, the entire plant can collapse. Always use a pot with drainage holes, and after watering, let every drop of excess water drain away completely. Healthy roots are the foundation of healthy flowers. But even with perfect light and perfect watering, many Anthuriums still refuse to bloom because they're missing one thing they would naturally receive every single day in a tropical rainforest.
Secret number 3, humidity. Now, even if your lighting and watering are perfect, your Anthurium may still refuse to bloom. Why? Because many homes are simply too dry. Remember, Anthuriums evolved in warm tropical rainforests where the air is naturally full of moisture almost every day. Now imagine taking that same plant and placing it inside a home with heating in winter or air conditioning in summer. To your Anthurium, it feels like living in a completely different world. When the air becomes too dry, the plant shifts into survival mode. Instead of producing flowers, it focuses all its energy on staying alive. The good news?
This is one of the easiest problems to fix. Group your Anthurium with other houseplants, place it on a pebble tray filled with water, or use a small humidifier nearby. Even lightly misting the leaves from time to time can help in dry environments. But humidity isn't the only thing many people overlook. Temperature matters just as much. Anthuriums grow best between 65 and 85 degrees Fahrenheit. Cold drafts from windows, air conditioners, or exterior doors can shock the plant without you even noticing.
If the leaves begin curling or lose their rich green color, becoming dull or grayish, the problem may not be watering at all. It may simply be that your Anthurium is too cold. Move it away from the draft, and you'll often see it recover within just a few days. But even perfect humidity won't produce flowers if your plant isn't getting the nutrients it needs. And this next mistake surprises almost everyone.
Secret number 4, fertilizer. When people want more flowers, their first instinct is usually simple: add more fertilizer. Ironically, that's often what stops the flowers from appearing. To bloom well, Anthuriums need a fertilizer that contains a little more phosphorus, the middle number on the fertilizer label, because phosphorus plays a key role in flower production.
During spring and summer, feed your plant every 4 to 6 weeks using a diluted fertilizer. A light, consistent feeding works far better than occasional heavy doses. Because here's the mistake that damages countless Anthuriums every year. More fertilizer does not mean more flowers. Too much fertilizer burns the roots, stresses the plant, and can completely stop blooming. When it comes to feeding an Anthurium, less really is more. And speaking of roots, the last secret is probably the most surprising one on this list.
Secret number 5, pot and roots. Most people assume that giving a plant a bigger pot automatically makes it happier. With an Anthurium, the opposite is often true. A slightly snug pot, where the roots are just a little crowded, actually encourages the plant to bloom. Instead of spending all its energy growing more roots, it begins investing that energy in producing flowers. That's why repotting too often can delay blooming for months. Only move your Anthurium into a larger pot when you see roots circling tightly inside the container or growing through the drainage holes. And when you do repot, choose a pot that's only one size larger. Going much bigger simply gives the roots more space to fill before the plant starts thinking about flowers again. But before we finish, there's one fascinating fact that almost every new Anthurium owner gets wrong. Bonus, the flower isn't actually the flower. 520 to 600. Take a close look at your Anthurium. That beautiful red, pink, or white heart-shaped part that everyone admires isn't actually the flower. It's called a spathe, a colorful modified leaf that attracts pollinators. The true flowers are much smaller. They're packed tightly along the slender spike in the center, known as the spadix. Why is this important?
Because once you know what a young spadix looks like, small, pale, and slightly textured, you can tell that a new bloom is developing days before the colorful spathe begins to open. It's a simple trick that helps you spot progress much earlier. And here's one final tip. Once a bloom starts turning green, brown, or papery, don't leave it on the plant. Trim it off at the base. Old blooms continue using energy that your Anthurium could be directing toward producing brand new flowers. A small cut today can mean another beautiful bloom much sooner. Now that you know all 5 secrets, there's one mistake that causes more blooming failures than all the others combined. And if you avoid it, you'll already be ahead of most Anthurium owners.
The biggest mistake that prevents more Anthuriums from blooming than anything else, it's this. People think that more fertilizer means more flowers. It sounds logical, but it's exactly the opposite. Too much fertilizer doesn't encourage blooming. It burns the roots, stresses the plant, and often causes flowering to stop completely. Think of fertilizer as a vitamin, not a meal. A little, applied consistently, keeps your Anthurium healthy. Too much does far more harm than good. So if you remember just one lesson from this video, remember this. Consistency always beats excess. Healthy Anthuriums don't bloom because they're overloaded with fertilizer. They bloom because their needs are met, little by little, day after day.
So let's quickly recap the 5 secrets. Give your Anthurium bright, indirect light. Water only when the growing medium actually needs it. Keep the air comfortably humid. Feed it lightly during the growing season. And don't rush to move it into a bigger pot. Follow those 5 simple principles, and your Anthurium will have everything it needs to reward you with beautiful blooms that can last for months. One last thing before you go.
If your Anthurium doesn't bloom during winter, don't assume you've done something wrong. Shorter days mean less natural light, so it's completely normal for flowering to slow down or even pause for a while. As long as the leaves remain healthy and new growth continues, your plant is simply following its natural rhythm. With the return of longer, brighter days, the flowers usually return too. Now, I'd love to hear from you. How long has your Anthurium been without flowers? Or maybe yours is blooming beautifully? Let me know in the comments. I read as many as I can, and your experience might help someone else bring their Anthurium back into bloom. If you found this guide helpful, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more simple science-backed plant care tips. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.